Welcome to I Am Audible. Before I begin on today's book, please click on the subscribe button, and also press the notification bell for any new updates, added chapters, or just another new book or stories to be heard. Welcome back as we continue on with our book reading of I Am is Inside Out. In today's chapter 10, it is about exploring the disruptions that challenge the status quo. Let's dive into the complexities of what doesn't fit the mold. So let's begin. I hurried to seek shelter as a heavy downpour approached. I reached the tallest treetop house, signaling my presence with a stone on a rope. The door cracked open, revealing a man with a mixed expression of irritation and curiosity. I introduced myself as a traveler seeking refuge from the storm and made a customary Eden bow. He allowed me inside, shielding me from the rain and hail. Inside, he identified me as a potential young priestess, and a woman adorned like a goddess entered the room with wreaths, necklaces, and bracelets. A fairy in vibrant silks, appearing middle-aged, approached me and commented on my likely request for colony currency. I clarified that I was left-handed. He smiled strangely, his hands closed rather than open as customary. He greeted me dramatically, asking about my order affiliation. I explained that I had none. Noticing my ornate necklace and bracelet, he assumed a high rank but found it unusual that I had no order connection. I remained silent, and he appeared puzzled. Examining my necklace, he noticed my shaking and asked a skinny fairy to fetch a fluffy blanket. He admired the unique iridescent stones in my necklace as the blanket arrived. Silken Fairie was surprised and nervous when he saw me do something he had never encountered before. I sought advice from an inner fairy, and a fairy placed a blanket on my shoulders. I inquired about my inner fairy, and learned that they were believed to be knowledgeable relatives of Eden Fairies with a lineage tracing back to Eden. I demonstrated my abilities by glowing. Silken Fairie seems guarded, but I matched his illusionary color without revealing more. Using fairy magic, I deflected his attention from my control of the Deception colony and replied cryptically, "The nature of reality sometimes changes myths and fables." He asked my parents if we had additional outsider ancestors, to which I indicated in my attentiveness. Finally, he inquired if there were many living outside Eden and if they had founded colonies. He seemed curious about my background, possibly having detected my earlier mistake. To avoid revealing too much, I claimed to be from an outsider settlement and spun a story about pixie trickery regarding special stones from Eden. He expressed sympathy for my apparent loss, and I felt relieved that my pixie lies had worked. However, his real intentions emerged when he asked if I remembered the path from Eden to the outside world. I became cautious and limited the information I shared. He asked about my travels and whether I was drawn to gatherings of similar beings. I mentioned following the winds and observing migrating creatures. He asked why I had chosen his colony, and I explained that I stumbled upon it while seeking shelter from an approaching storm. He invited me to warm up in his fermenter's room and ordered sweets for me. The fermenter's room was large and well-designed, with translucent walls and alcoves for seating. It served various purposes, including warmth and chemical production. I anticipated a cozy night there. He gestured for me to sit at a plain, unremarkable table. Across from me, he spread out some sheets of paper and set out snacks. I appreciated the gesture and thanked them for the food and comfortable surroundings. Silken Fairie leaned in and, in a somewhat disjointed manner, recalled our previous conversation. He mentioned my unique status as an Eden Fairy in the outsider world, someone disconnected from any colony. When I casually mentioned the Eden Soarers exploring the outsider world, it piqued his interest. He questioned me about my interactions with them and how often they occurred. I admitted my lack of knowledge about their territory's borders and my inability to recall specific meeting places. Curiosity and self-interest seemed to override any consideration for the Sora's agency and interests as he probed me for the number of Soras I had spoken with. I responded by explaining my preference for living in the present without obsessing over numbers, which Inner Fairy praised as illuminating discoveries. He acknowledged that I attracted the Eden Soras because I was a newcomer to the Eden bloodline. I secretly hoped the Eden Soras would find me appealing and share their wisdom, but I knew such perfect encounters were unlikely, and my sadness showed. He inquired if I ever looked up Eden's location during my outsider explorations. I turned my head in response. Curiously, he asked about the Eden Fairy Soras and their characteristics. I described them as having wings twice as long as their bodies, exuding beauty and grace. Inner Fairy praised my response. He mentioned how Sora wings were rarely given to groundlings in the colony nation, either as a prize or when they left forever. I expressed doubt that any Eden Fairy would willingly become an exhibit. He briefly pondered using means to compel an Eden Fairy to perform as desired. I felt discomfort and restlessness. To change the topic, I asked about his sacred legend order. He proudly identified himself as a member of the Sacred Order of the Legend's message, be fruitful and wealthy, emphasizing their focus on prosperity through labor. He assumed I was attracted to their power and wealth despite following the laws of nature. He believed my presence symbolized his order's importance and warned me about the need for a deeper understanding before addressing the public. He prided himself on being sought after for advice on colony currency collection, even by fellow elites. He explained that elites were privileged fairies with access to wealth and resources. His arrogance toward those without such advantages was evident. He described the luxury of treetop living, contrasting it with the communal life of Eden Fairies, emphasizing his wealth with multiple luxurious homes. He discussed their colony currency system, which aimed to prevent new forms of money. I struggled to hide my displeasure. He boasted about how elites created systems to foster dependency, using heavy taxation and punitive measures to extract effort-reward currency from citizens for essential services. He expressed disbelief at the simplicity of the masses' desires for unity, sustenance, and family, which the elite manipulated for their benefit. I questioned why citizens tolerated this system, and he explained their conditioning to see it as necessary, with the elite as benefactors. He emphasized that many citizens willingly support the colony nation, believing it's the only option. The elite manipulate this trust to gain wealth and power. I challenged the wisdom of this arrangement, and he pointed out that citizens felt privileged to be part of the colony nation. The elite further solidify their power through additional fees, systems, and businesses that exploit workers' dire need for colony currency. He explained the various fees and taxes imposed on businesses, highlighting how their multiple systems led to increased wealth accumulation. Convenience and time savings justified higher prices. He concluded, feeling satisfied that his explanation had impressed me. I responded sarcastically, acknowledging the cleverness of trapping citizens in a cycle of dependency on services benefiting the elite. I pointed out the irony of even the most vulnerable having to pay fees for essential assistance. He laughed uncomfortably, entertaining an unusual idea that I couldn't comprehend from my innocent perspective. He proudly stated that their help methods aimed only for a slight reduction in sorrow, as suffering motivated people to work for them or become takers themselves. He continued, explaining how heavy taxes on homes prevented owners from offering lodging to travelers and how relief organizations were needed. These organizations' managers profited and required funds for buildings, volunteer supervisors, and marketers to promote them as generous donors. He mentioned his neighbor's luxurious life from managing support for multiple organizations. I remained silent, unable to express our emotions. He boasted about his expertise in counting house currency moving operations, surpassing the political clout of elected rulers. He found humor in the fact that they charged the public fees for supplying currency and for counting and keeping their money. They lent out money they didn't possess, charging fees when fairies borrowed but not when they lent. His explanations revealed the complexities of their system. I was shocked to discover that elites used predictive seer advisors for personal gain rather than helping those in need. I questioned how this turned prophets into greedy individuals serving the elite's interests. Silken Fairie explained that profit wasn't seer-like, it was about taking more than what's given. He found humor in the parallels between prophesying and financial predictions, but his systems rarely supported the masses. He revealed how they manipulated markets, destroyed competitors, and profited from a global convenience certificate that charged excessive user fees. I remained silent, troubled by his lack of concern for fairness. Silken Fairie boasted about his financial systems, seeking my admiration. He claimed to live carefreely, but I disagreed, knowing his carefreeness was different from Eden Faeries' ideals. My inner fairy advised caution, and I expressed my concerns about their complex systems benefiting the wealthy. Despite his compliments, I voiced my worry that their common currency might overshadow true values. I emphasized the importance of helping those in need and genuine empathy in Eden. He argued that elites didn't experience hardship and blamed the poor for their fate. I questioned the ethics of profiting from others' happiness and their morality in doing so. I accidentally revealed my intuition, making him uneasy. He explained that they prohibited the development of intuition among the general populace to maintain control and prevent unpredictable outcomes. I argued that in Eden, intuition was used fairly and honestly and asked about the value of inner awareness in legend orders. He admitted that the elite wanted to control fairies' minds and eliminate their awareness to make them unquestioning servants. I became concerned about the consequences of forcing inner development on those unprepared for it and consulted my inner fairy. Despite the risks, I couldn't resist the urge to help reduce the harm caused by his kind. I promised caution. He acknowledged that some legend orders rejected user-taker systems, but they had also become users and takers themselves, distancing themselves from responsibility. I challenged his reasoning, but he dismissed it, claiming that legend orders saw their past decisions as separate from their current reliance on user-taker systems. His claim of superiority over the Creator's principles and Eden's ways angered me, causing physical tension. He noticed my discomfort and attributed it to his excellent fermenters, ordering more sweets and juice. Careful with my words, I asked about their response when their systems caused significant suffering and public outcry against injustice. He explained they would feign sympathy, offer more benefits, but ensure people remained dependent on them for change. They compensated by raising the currency needed to survive. Silken Fairie mentioned they occasionally named streets or holidays after rebels, which had little impact. He then discussed the difficulty of balancing suffering as motivation and suppressing dissent. He saw dissent as an affront to their right to take. Returning to his bragging, he highlighted their ability to quell uprisings and the division between elites and the disorganized masses. I inquired about their methods for creating separation among faefolk naturally inclined to unity. He assumed I wanted advice, providing writing tools for note-taking. Well, that is it for today's reading. Click on the like button if you enjoyed listening to I Am Is Inside Out. If you want to continue to the next episode, just click the link below. And I hope to see you soon.